Welcome back, tech heads and gadget gurus, to another episode of Tech Times Daily, where, as always, we dive into the world of tech and everything related. I'm your host for today, Chris Short, and joining me, as always, is Christian Tejedas. Christian, how's it going?
Good. How's everyone doing?
We good here, man, just battling the heat. But we got a we got a very, what I find ironic, maybe,
Really?
and interesting story. Um Apparently, according to corporate governance guidelines of Donald Trump's Truth Social, they are committed to DEI, which DEI is, diversity and inclusion.
Oh,
Um, I'll read a snippet here from so yeah, massive. This is from Isaiah Richard. A massive new development for Donald Trump's Truth Social is changing the platform's landscape, and it is becoming woke, air quotes, according to some social media people. It's widely known as a social media platform that supports right wing ideologies and ideals, right? Where opinions, albeit maybe extreme, all opinions are welcome and get support. Um, and the recent changes are hoping that it evolves for the better. Um, so basically, I have it's actually a PDF of their governance guidelines, and I want to read this really quick, and then I'll get your take on it. So first, it says the board being, the board of directors, is committed to creating and maintaining a culture of diversity and inclusion. The company will be better able to grow and improve with a diverse board, management, and team of employees. Such commitment is and will be a factor in identifying and nominating director candidates at both the nominating and corporate governance committee and board levels. Additionally, the board believes in and supports equal opportunity and employment to all persons and strongly encourages management to embrace the unique contributions an employee or candidate can bring to the company and its culture in terms of their education, opinions, culture, ethnicity, race, sex, gender identity, and expression, sexual orientation, nationality, color, religion, veteran status, disability, and other life experiences. The company does not tolerate sexual or other unlawful harassment or discrimination by any employee, volunteer, vendor, contractor, consultant, customer, or visitor. So, what do you
yeah.
think? Is this going against the kind of what Truth Social, wanted to be?
Yeah. Here's the thing. When have we started actually hiring people for their skills, actually? So I would, and no offense to the disabled people, I would love someone with no hands to actually ply my plane.
Well,
So it doesn't actually owe anyone, it doesn't grant anyone any favors regarding this. Like, did Trump suddenly actually give up the election? That's why he's actually doing this.
no, actually, I think this comes, right, like he recently allowed like a large, he sold a bunch of shares or something, or went public with it, or got it back or something, and like a bunch of people kind of invested and came in.
Has he not watched any MCU film over the past 2 years and what's happening with this?
I honestly, I very highly doubt that he had anything to do with this.
Like, pretty much
This
everything
doesn't
that concerns
echo.
about him, pretty much everything that's concerned about him, pretty much he has nothing to do with, right? So,
Well, this doesn't echo Donald Trump to me.
but if we're gonna go on correlation with this, everything regarding Twitter shouldn't actually echo anything Elon Musk says.
Well, No, I mean, I'm saying like I don't feel like Elon Musk is very hands-on with Twitter. Probably the most hands-on CEO maybe in the world. I don't know. He's very, very hands-on. I don't think Trump is.
Yeah, regardless, it all goes back to where they feel they can get the most money out of things. Like everything's about cash. It's not it it's the virtue signaling has become monetized for everyone. Like let's take it at that point. Like if we're gonna be going by the performance of the company, like you would want people best suited for the job. And if you
Right.
are the one that is actually going to be hired, you would want to know that you are the best suited for the job. That's why you were accepted.
Right. Yeah,
And
that's kind of the issue with DEI is, you know, a person of color or a person with disability or a person of a different sexual orientation. I've heard this from many people of those persuasions, right? You know, it's like, you know, you hear it a lot you know, in the black and brown community from people. The more, oh wait, I have to tread lightly here. The more, um, let's say free thinking, the more free thinking of these communities, right? Because we know that it's a lot of groupthink in the world, really, but there are some people, and I'm not going to name names or anything like that, but I've seen and I've heard where DEI is actually it takes away from your personal accomplishments, right? Like, am I being hired because I'm disabled, or am I being hired because I'm absolutely the best for this position? Like it
it's in
takes
me
away
for
from it. It's not a merit-based system.
it's nepotism that's not based on blood.
Well, it's forcing,
Yeah.
you know, and you got to have a certain percentage. And I think personally, what I think this is a copy paste, cover our own ass uh section in the company guidance.
By the way, how's Truth Social going at the moment? Like, are they any up from when they started?
Oh yeah, they cashed in a bunch on it recently. Like I have a True Social account. I don't go over there because it's pretty cringe. But I also don't go to X that much because it's cringe in the other direction.
Like the two of us actually, I think more of our social media platform averse, right? We don't
Yeah.
usually spend our lives there,
Right,
right?
right.
Some people do. But then
You
if
know,
you think about it, I think this is pretty late in the game for them to actually think of this. They went public, but by the way, when was did this happen? A couple of
a couple
weeks
weeks
ago,
ago. Yeah,
and the stock suddenly tanked, right? After a couple of days.
yeah.
Is it because of the platform that's not adhering to the EI performance, or is it because of the name that's actually tied to it?
Well, it's both, right? Like conservatives, people that follow, you know, whether they're, you know, right leaning or far right or extreme right. Um, it's such a polarized world that in the US that's just there now, where like it's so it's so polarized that common sense takes a backseat to popular opinion on the side that you want to, you know, you relate to or whatever, the side that you want to be a part of. Whereas everything from pedophilia to human trafficking to drug use, that, you know, open air drug use, like what we see in a lot of cities now, especially on the West Coast, those things are attributed and somewhat accepted by members of one side. And then on the other side, and you know, the members from the other side say, "Oh, it's terrible! Don't do it. It's the worst. You know, hell's going to whatever." And then you have on the other side, you know, you have the rampancy of gun violence. You have the limitation of women's rights. You have, um, you know, people thinking they can just go into the Capitol building Now, the people on the left, you have election deniers. Now, the people on the left will say those things are a threat to democracy. While the people on the right say excessive illegal immigration is a threat to the United States. And they will not agree that both of these things or all of these things are terrible.
Yeah, the funny thing is, if you suddenly say the tenets of meritocracy to someone without actually mentioning the term and actually not stating any political principles in it, people would gladly accept that you get hired for your skill. You get
Right.
rewarded for what you put in. Like it's pretty much something that's just common sense. But if you suddenly add this party is telling you guys to do this, that meritocracy is this, our platform, it suddenly muddies it and actually makes it into something much more scummy.
Right. And yeah, to build on the point I was making is DEI is one of those things that
I
the
remember when
left
the
says it.
Oscars actually did this. Like they made certain bullet points regarding how you can be nominated. And it's not just about just making a good movie. Like
Right. Yeah.
I pretty much think art is should be just making good art.
I mean, it's I don't know, man. It's the inclusion thing. I mean, this is all great, right? Like this should happen, but if you have, let's say, for example, um, let's use the hair braiding industry, right? Because cornrows and all that stuff, right? We'll go there. I'll go there right now. If you take if you have a company, let's say you have a company that is absolute, or
Right.
let's even say, we can go into, any community, right? I don't particularly know what white people are better at than most other people. Probably, not much really, to be honest, because our culture isn't that deep. But like in the black culture, you have like cornrows and things. Well, I've never had corn. I don't know how to do. I've never actually even seen anybody get them done. It's a black culture thing for the most part. And there's a lot of Hispanic culture that is very much that culture, right? It is appropriated sometimes, the Tex-Mex and all that stuff, but like real Mexican culture is done best by Mexicans, right? So now you take, like, I'll go back to my example. You have a company that does cornrows, right? Let's say, cornrows USA.
Yeah.
And the top 1% of people in the world that do cornrows are probably black. So now you're telling me that I have a cornrow company, but I have to hire a bunch of white people too because of diversity and inclusion. I don't want to do that. It's not the best for my company.
And cornrows isn't actually even inherently black. It's
Well, it's
actually part of the Norwegian. I think it's called a
yeah.
Dutch
Well,
breed.
we Norwegians don't do it anymore. But that's
Uh,
that's just an example off top. It may be wrong or not entirely accurate, but you see the point I'm making.
yeah. And
That
in
it
terms
doesn't.
of diversity, I think a lot of countries actually are able to do it. Like I just found out that the UK, London, there are only 36% British people there.
Yeah, I read that too. It's crazy.
So pretty much the voting population there is actually mostly immigrants. And
Right.
there's no whiter place than London. So
Well, you would imagine.
that's a motherland of whiteness. So
Yeah. I mean, yeah, the Anglo-Saxons, right? We're all from that area. But that's kind of my issue with DEI is you're forcing companies to make decisions based on something other than is this the best person for the position, regardless of race, color, whatever it is, color, creed, sex, whatever the saying is, race, color, whatever. It
makes you
while trying, you can't fight racism with racism. Like it doesn't make sense.
it makes you wonder how bad it is at Truth Social right now for them to actually do this at the moment. Like they're pretty much more melded into the personality of the right. They haven't been shying away from it since. They've been going about saying that, hey, we're more free here. If there
Yeah.
is such a thing, like you can pretty much be yourself, state your opinion, you won't be judged. That's the quote and unquote right way.
Right,
But
right,
here
right.
they are
Yeah.
now, suddenly doing a 180 based on a reaction of just going public. Like like we said, as long as money is actually injected in something, nothing remains pure.
Right.
I'm not of the right. I don't pretty much care for their principles or tenets, but I can understand why they need their own platform since they are accusing the other end of actually owning theirs. Right? It's only right that they have their own domain. But then again, I don't see this serving anyone any good. Even for the persons that are actually going to be benefiting from it, people are going to be looking at them. They're just hired for the sake of that bullet point.
Right.
So
Right. Right. Right.
it doesn't actually help in the current situation of things. In all
Yeah. Well,
honesty.
you know where Truth Social sprouted from. It was when Donald Trump got kicked off all the other social media. And he's like, well, fuck it, then I'll just make my own. And he did. Like that's the only reason. Before he got removed from Twitter, there was never a discussion about uh Donald Trump doing
Yeah.
his own social media platform.
We all know the history of what happens when Donald Trump does his own, right? Five casinos brought down. Like the only business where people actually give you money for nothing, it actually crumbled. So
Right. But yeah, I mean, I think this is corporate ass covering is exactly what this is.
and it's
It's got to
basically
be here because as soon as some blue-haired, you know, dude looking chick or chick looking dude doesn't get hired, or as soon as some MAGA person, or whatever, either side, it doesn't matter. As soon as someone doesn't get hired, then they want to sue. You know what I'm saying? You have to have this in place, or the 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 atmosphere of America today in the legal system, they will destroy you if they think for a second that you're even the slightest bit racist. Your entire company, your personal life, like probably even your personal finances, everything gets destroyed.
and it's
They're
not
just
even
covering
about
their ass.
it's not even about the racism part regarding Truth Social that's gonna be an issue or the DEI. Like from the jump, every social media platform has this model of we're gonna be gaining profit from advertising. Do you think anyone wants to advertise anyone with anything that's tied up to the name Trump at this point?
Publicly, no.
Right? So, and what catches the public eye is what's actually driving the market in any case. So, I don't know. It's just it's a bit too late for me for them to actually do this. And right now, to me, they're actually just pandering.
Yeah, well, I don't know that they announced it for one. I think this was discovered. But I think it's corporate ass covering is all it is. Like it's gotta be there. It has to be there because as soon as you get hit with a lawsuit saying you didn't hire me because I'm purple, you're going to get sued. And if it's not in your company guidelines or whatever this thing is called, corporate governance guidelines, then you don't have two legs to stand on. Like you're done. You can't argue that we practice DEI, but it's not in your governance guidelines. Any lawyer would eat you alive and you would be liable for God knows how much to one person.
And you no longer have to look at the history books to find examples on this. Like Netflix already experienced one during their walkout, right? During the Dave Chappelle stuff.
Yeah.
What good did that do?
Well, that was more free speech, I think.
Yeah, in a sense, more
Yeah.
diverse people actually were the ones who actually protested.
Yeah. And he did not fold, which goes
Mhm.
to show diversity, equity, and inclusion isn't really as important to these companies as they make it seem.
And
Right?
I think
They have to do it, or they'll get sued. But
that
when push comes to shove, and Dave Chappelle says, "I'm not changing shit," and Dave Chappelle is one of their biggest pulls on the entire platform, then the DEI doesn't matter that much. They say, "Go ahead, walk out. We're not
it
going to
just
censor."
it just sounds so sad that people that will be gunning for these DEI jobs are the ones that
Mm.
are most likely not ever gonna get these jobs without these check marks.
Right. Right. And even as a headhunter, right? As HR, you have to go out and try to find somebody. Like we
Yeah.
gotta have we have like if somebody comes in, it's like you have no straight people working here,
Yeah.
then you know, you're straights, whatever the advocacy
Well,
group for straight people is going to go fucking bananas.
instead of the indexing, I would much rather see them actually springing for training, educating the minorities that they feel would be fit for these jobs, and also women. Women in the
Yeah.
corporate office space, there is this myth that there is a prejudice regarding women being put in higher office. If anyone came to my country, you would understand a majority of those that are in higher office here are women.
Oh, I mean,
Anyone
y'all,
going to a job interview, if you are female, you are most likely to be hired. So
yeah. I mean, y'all had a female president, so
it
light
there's a
years light years
there's a
ahead of the
shift in
West.
culture. Like the culture has already shifted to women already being seen as a dominant force within the working industry, within
Mm,
the corporate world. It's just I think the lack of training for them to actually aspire to be in those positions, as well as for minorities. Like the opportunities are certainly there. They're filling the blanks.
right.
So why not go for that? Why instead of just this index bullshit that they're actually trying to promote?
Well, yeah,
What surprised me the most is I figured Truth Social would be immune to this because that's pretty
we,
much
they
their
can't be.
slogan from day one.
They
But then
can't be.
again, you think about it, they're trying to be a business, so you
Yeah,
have to.
yeah. They don't have a choice.
Even
It's
Disney
the
hasn't. Even Disney, even losing the billions that they're losing right now, still not folding. They're
yeah.
doubling down on it. Like
They're fucking
they hate money so much.
they're hemorrhaging money right now.
Like, do they hate money so much? I've been alive for quite some time now. Losing money for a business is never a good thing.
Well, I mean, it depends on where your, I guess it depends on where your priorities lie.
Yeah.
You know,
So stocks plummeting. Like my dad once said this. Like, do you know how to gain profit from 5 billion investment? Like I said, how? Invest 10 billion
right? Makes
because you'll
sense.
lose
Yeah,
more than what you gain at the start.
but you know, but yeah, I mean, I don't think it makes a difference. I think a lot of the people that they're worried about
Let's
applying for
look
work
at this
at
way.
Truth
Let,
isn't.
let,
They're not going to apply anyway.
yeah, let's look at this way. They already got the customers that would actually go for them at this point. Like that's basically it. No matter what changes they make, like the left wouldn't want to associate with Donald Trump, I think.
Right. I mean, you know,
It's so tribal there. Like no one actually knows how to change their minds anymore.
I don't see this making a huge difference. And I think, like I said, and I don't know, I've said it a couple times, but I don't think this is more than just corporate have to. It's like a copy and paste. This is the template, okay? Like you have to have this in there, you have to have this in there, you have to have this in there. Like that's just the way it is nowadays. Because a lawyer will tell
AM
you if this is not in here, we are
and to our
vulnerable.
audience, AMD is running really well. It's run by a woman. So what's the argument
Right.
regarding the DEI stuff?
For Truth
I don't
Social,
even know if I don't even know if the for the tech companies, I don't even know which companies actually implement the DEI index.
I think for Truth more specifically, I don't think women are the problem. Because I mean, Trump's surrounded by powerful women. He put his daughter in positions. He's
He's basically
his
the
daughter
she's
and
basically the vice president.
his daughter-in-law. I I don't know which is which. Laura, I think, is a daughter-in-law, maybe. I'm not sure. But they, that's not. I think the thing is Trump has always said that DEI is divisive and un-American. I agree that it's divisive. It's like you can't fight sexism with sexism. You can't fight racism with racism. You can't fight classism with classism, right? You just can't do it. Like we have to remove that aspect of labeling people first. Like we have our first Black CEO. Like we have to stop doing that. Or our first woman CEO, or like that has to stop, because as long as you're putting labels on things, things are always going to be labeled. And that's where the focus goes. It goes away from the individual and to the person's characteristics or identity or whatever. Like it takes away from that individual person.
By the way, I think it's only in the US that term is actually being used.
What's that? Which term? DEI? Which?
First Black CEO or first
Yeah,
Latino. I think it's
that's what
only
I'm
done in
saying.
the US. Pretty much every part of the world actually just calls them the CEO.
That's exactly my point, is as long as we're continuing to put these precursor labels on things, you can't say that we're trying to combat racism when you're saying we're going to hire you based on your race.
Yeah.
Well, how does that make sense? It doesn't. It just doesn't make sense in any language. But yeah, well, I'm interested to know who, what people think. I was about to say who and how seriously I piss them. I don't think I pissed anybody off. I think my
I, I,
my point
I
was
figure our
fairly.
audience actually thinking right now, oh, they're getting political again. Like everything regarding tech right now, actually politics is bleeding into it, whether we like it or not. Like
Yeah,
that's the main issue. Usually when we talk about tech and sciences, these are usually based on facts, but now things have been dumbed down enough for actually just using basic common sense is impressive enough. Like
right, right. I mean, yeah, everything is now. There's no gray area anymore. It's either black or white. Like there's no um
so we do understand the audience, our audience is actually, or anyone watching this actually can think that we're becoming political here. Basically, we're not. It's just the landscape that we're in that this is happening. We would love to talk about tech more.
yeah. But I mean, this is interesting. I think it kind of shows um that no matter what or who you are, like some things are just the norm now.
Yeah, and shout out to the CEOs and upper management of corporate who got their job the right way, being skilled for it.
Yeah. And aside from nepotism, which, we can talk, I don't like nepotism, and I think Donald Trump is probably one of the most, I don't even know if this is a word, one of the most nepotistic people ever. You know.
Mm, didn't do him any favors.
No, but I mean, I'm just saying, like, I mean, nepotism is not merit based either, and I don't agree with nepotism. But yeah, nonetheless,
Yeah, the
uh,
only industry that doesn't have nepotism is actually sports, right? That's why I love sports.
uh,
You
nepo
don't see Michael Jordan's son actually killing it, by the way.
I did see a report that LeBron James said if Bronny doesn't get drafted to where they want him to go, he's going to make some phone calls.
Mm, they won't be doing it. Like you won't also want your team to win. Like I believe these 600 players are the best players in the world. Every day the NBA is actually scouting. So this is the only team that I can trust that they got the right persons for the job.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, there's you make a good point.
Free tickets, please. So
Yeah, yeah. Well, all right. Well, that wraps up today's edition of Tech Times Daily. Tune in again tomorrow for more updates and insightful or discombobulated or delusional insight. But until then, yeah, stay curious, stay connected. And for Christian Harris, I'm Chris Short. See you next time.